G'day, I'm Stephen Page from Page Pro and Family and Fertility Lawyers, and now I'm not talking about some legal topic, but I'm talking about myself. Because today, this day in January 2025, happens to be an anniversary for me. And I've got a little badge up here. It's not the usual badge I wear, which is the Queensland Law Society President's Medal, which is the highest honour the Queensland Law Society hands out, which was truly humbling to receive. But this one, which has got the number 25 on it. And I got this a few years ago. It represented me having been admitted for 25 years. Ironically, I couldn't turn up for the event because I was working that night. I had an urgent matter in court. Life still happens. But the anniversary is not 25 years, it's 40 years. And it's not 40 years of admission. I'll soon get to 38 years of admission, but it's 40 years of full-time legal practice today, the day that this video is recorded. So way back in January 1985, I started as an article law clerk, that was the main process by which someone got admitted once they finished their law degree, which was 2 years full-time legal practice. But not paid as a lawyer and not with the status of a lawyer and the obligations of a lawyer. But so since that date, I've been in full-time legal practice, and the world has changed. In those days, we had typewriters, we had noisy computers with huge systems and huge printers, and lots of staff, a lot fewer support staff these days, a lot more computing, and technology has moved in great leaps forward, and I just love the way that technology has moved forward. In many ways, it's made life a lot easier to practice, a lot faster, a lot more responsive, and things like this, doing videos, almost impossible to do back then. And what do we see? However, in all that time, and I have written books during that time. I've written numerous articles. I've done 300 odd presentations to various conferences and so on. As of today, by the end of today, I will have advised, as best I can count, and I'm a lawyer, not an accountant, so maths were never my forte, but as best I can count, 1,988 surrogacy journeys, which is apt because in 1988 was my first surrogacy journey I advised on. So the same number as of today. But what have I seen in that time? Aside from helping thousands of people either become parents or when they've split up. Well, what I've seen sadly in the field of family law is in standard family law, where people are splitting up, where they're arguing about money, they're arguing about kids, or they're trying to get protection from violence, not much has changed. Lots has changed in terms of law, lots has changed in terms of procedure. This happens to be one of the most dynamic areas of the law where governments come in and fiddle and they throw a ton of money and they say, hey, we've thrown that ton of money and we're going to change the procedure and it's going to be different and new and better. Well, at the margins. I suppose one of the biggest changes was to encourage mediation, which I think has been great. But for those hardcore cases where mediation doesn't work, where there's typically violence, it's the same dynamic I've seen since 1985. And I'll never forget, one of my first clients back in 1985, she'd be absolutely dead and buried now, but she was an old woman, she'd separated from her husband, and he had subjected her to violence. I'd never come across family violence or domestic violence until that moment. I'd never seen it in my life. My upbringing was a happy one, thankfully. But I was shocked at what this man had done to her, and I thought it was wrong. It was absolutely wrong, and no one should ever be silent about this. But I was amazed at her fortitude. She was really in terrible financial state. He was trying to make sure that she scraped the bottom of the barrel in terms of her finances. But she was living in a caravan. And despite living in a caravan, she was happy. And one of the things that stood out to me about everything else she was doing in this struggle was she was growing her own vegetables. So despite everything else that was happening to her, she was being optimistic about life and looking forward to life, not being down in the dumps by what her terrible husband had done to her. Sadly, I have seen thousands of domestic violence cases since then, acted for many who have been badly impacted by domestic violence and got them, in many cases, got them safe. Thankfully, I've not had anyone die on my watch. I've always taken safety as being the number one priority. Everything else, well, about money, about what parenting arrangements for children, etc., comes second to safety. And when it comes to family formation, since 1988, I have been in this fertility law space. I didn't know that I would be doing so much of it, but now I've acted for thousands of clients. And they've been doing surrogacy or posthumous sperm retrieval or egg donation or sperm donation. And I've been blessed to also act for IVF clinics about ART regulation, and been privileged to change the law to make children safer, to enable procedures to be done better. And so these laws have been domestic violence laws, these have been some family law changes, some changes to how IVF is regulated, and so on. Just because the world is like this today doesn't mean it should be like this tomorrow. I've always had hope, and with hope has always been a determination, what can I do to make the world a better place? And having been here on this earth 40 years of doing this work, do I intend to give up anytime soon? No. I want to keep doing this work. I love doing this work. I love helping people who are split up to get back on their own 2 feet. I love helping people who want to become parents. It's such a joy to do this work and such an honour to help all these clients. I'm a very lucky man. So thank you for this little reminisce by me. I've tried to keep it short. My CV is longer than this session. I think my CV is best part of 40 pages with all that I've done. It's embarrassingly long, but thank you for watching and listening to this most personal moment. I'm Stephen Page from Page Proven Family and Fertility Lawyers.